Have you ever really stopped to think about who the you is that's living your life? I mean, we all walk around with this feeling, right? That there's a solid, continuous self, a single driver in the seat of our mind. But what if that feeling, the very core of our identity, is just a story? What if the I is an illusion? Okay, let's get into it. We've all heard this one. I think, therefore I am. This single sentence, way back from the 17th century, pretty much became the bedrock of how we think about ourselves. And it feels so true, doesn't it? It feels completely obvious. Of course, there's an I that does the thinking, the feeling, the existing. It seems like the most basic truth there is. But hang on. Let's really push on that idea for a second. If you try to look inward right now, past all your thoughts, past your feelings, past your memories, can you actually find the thinker, or do you just find more thoughts? This is the central puzzle we're going to try and unpack today. So first up, is this whole idea of the I we carry around even real, or is it something we kind of made up along the way? Well, according to the Spanish philosopher Ignacio Gómez de Liaño, that whole I think thing is a total fallacy. He calls it a chimera. You know, like a mythical beast, something that isn't real. A castle in the sky. The idea that there's some permanent I floating around separate from all of our experiences, that, he says, is the grand illusion we've all been buying into. And check this out. This tiny little tweak in how we phrase things reveals a massive shift in perspective. We usually say, I feel pain. That automatically assumes there's a subject, right? An I who is having the experience. But what if it's actually more accurate to just say, there is a feeling of pain? The experience exists, absolutely, but the I is an extra layer, an assumption we added on top. And if you remove it, you suddenly don't need this separate kind of ghostly entity we call the self. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we need a new tool. We need to talk about the actual raw ingredients of reality itself. And that tool is qualia. It sounds like a complicated philosophical term, but it's really not. Think of qualia as the fundamental pixels of your reality. It's the raw stuff of experience. Before you put a name to it, before you judge it, before you even form a coherent thought about it, there's just the raw sensation itself. This is the primary data, the absolute foundation of everything. So what are we talking about really? Well, it's the specific redness of a stop sign. It's that sharp, jabbing feeling of a toothache. It's the sound of a voice in another room, the taste of salt on your tongue, the smell of rain hitting hot pavement, or that sinking feeling in your stomach when you're afraid. These are direct, undeniable experiences. You can't be wrong about feeling them. They just are. Okay, so now that we have this tool, this idea of qualia, we can start to see how our reality is actually split into two very different planes. And this analogy is just brilliant for explaining it. Imagine looking at your hand right now. Visually, it's just an object out there in the world, not all that different from, say, a rock you could pick up. But what if that hand suddenly felt a searing pain? Whoa, now it's not just an object anymore, is it? It's part of what Gómez de Liaño calls the flesh, that inner world of direct, undeniable feeling. So this gives us two planes of reality. On one side, you've got the world. This is the plane of representation. It's all the stuff we observe out there, objects, shapes, colors. On the other side, you've got the flesh, which you could also call the soul. This is the plane of affection, all those direct internal experiences of pain, pleasure, desire, fear, everything we feel in here. But wait a second. You might be thinking, okay, if there's no central I processing all this information from these two planes, if we're just a stream of experiences, then how do we make sense of anything at all? Right. It's the crucial question. If there's no captain steering the ship, how does the ship navigate? How does this seemingly random jumble of raw sensations turn into logic and reason and, understanding? Well, the answer is actually amazingly simple, and it's happening all around us. Just watch a little kid playing with blocks, one who can't even talk yet. They figure out pretty quick that a pyramid can sit on top of a cube, but a cube is not going to balance on top of a pyramid. They don't have some internal monologue narrating this. They simply perceive the relationship between the shapes, and that's the key. Understanding isn't an I that's thinking. Understanding is the act of seeing the connections. And this leads us to this really powerful metaphor. The self, the I. It isn't the furniture in the room of your mind. It's not any single thought or feeling. The I is the arrangement of all that furniture. It's the pattern. Just like your living room feels totally different when you rearrange the chairs and the sofa, you are a unique momentary pattern of all your experiences. The room is the same, and yet it's not the same at all. And neither are you. Thinking about the self this way has some pretty profound implications. It suggests that what we call thinking is way, way bigger than just cold, hard logic. Because if the self is a pattern that we weave from our experiences, then the loom doing the weaving isn't just logic. It's also our imagination, our feelings, and our memories. These aren't just extra features. They are the essential tools we use to shape the patterns that we call our personality and to guide how we act in the world. And really, this is a call to get back to a more complete, more holistic idea of what philosophy is for. It's not just about analyzing arguments. It's about tapping into what Gómez de Liaño calls a mnemonic flow, a stream of memory and imagination and feeling that we can use to actively mold who we are. So that brings it all back around to you. If your self isn't some solid object, but a fleeting arrangement of sensations, thoughts, and feelings, a unique pattern that exists in this very moment, then who are you right now? And who are you going to be in the next moment? That's something to chew on.